Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. This one, chock full of video games. Sometimes we put like the video games on top, but it's on top of like a couple of inches of like cardboard and stuff. Like, but it's a big box, but then it's like all full of like cardboard. It's an insert, and then the video games are kind of on top of it, and there's not that much underneath it. This one, the bag is all the way full. No air in this bag. You know what I mean?
Okay. When you said on top, I was envisioning more like the construction of a sandwich.
Okay.
Like the layers of, like, do you put the video games on
like
top
a video
of the cheese?
game Dagwood?
Uh-huh.
You put the video games on top of the cheese or underneath the cheese?
The cheese always goes on top. Cheese is cheese and then condiment, right? Cheese and then whatever spread you have, and then the bread.
What if you have two spreads?
I mix them together. Yeah, like a mayo would go, like a mayonnaise would go on the cheese part, and then the mustard would go on the bread part, and then would glue together.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I always go mayo.
I
always go mayo on one bread and mustard on the other.
Oh, so you could have some on the bottom?
Same.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
You put condiment on the bottom of
Hell
the bread?
yeah.
Oh, wow. It feels upside down to me for some reason. It feels like
both sides of the sandwich glued together.
Oh, man.
That's the only way to live, man.
I think, look, there's only one solution here: a condiment between every single layer of the sandwich.
That would be okay. A different one. Actually, I take that back. It would go cheese and then like lettuce and or tomato, then the condiment on top.
Wait, so you're putting the condiment in the middle?
No, going up. Like
going up. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah, cheese.
So meat
lettuce,
at the bottom, cheese,
lettuce, tomato,
onion, what have you.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
The Lucy's, and then condiments, and then the bread would slap on top.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like if I have an end of a bread, the end of the bread, like the butt end, the heel of the bread, that has to go on top. Otherwise, the sandwich feels upside down. If I put that slice of bread on the bottom, it feels like it's like when you slice a bagel and then you realize you just made your bagel upside down.
Sure. I don't often do the heel sandwich. Those are usually reserved for like toast or something.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I need uniform surface area.
Sure. Yeah. And also they're usually a little smaller too, so you wind up with this weird kind of like a couple of centimeters. That's for our EU folks. A couple of centimeters in from the edge. Are you guys good with centimeters and metric system at all?
No.
I mean, I would like to be.
I have nothing against it, but I'm saying I don't understand it at all.
By good, do you mean have the intuitive sense that allows you to just use it as a matter of course?
Yeah, like
look things up?
That's what I assumed you meant.
If I said like, oh, I've got a thing that's 5 inches long. Oh, I've got a thing that's 72 centimeters long. Which one is bigger?
Inches to centimeters I am terrible with.
Me too.
Let's see. I can kind of deal with Celsius because I do a lot of computer stuff. The other one, Europeans tell me if this is good shorthand or not. A meter is fairly close to a yard.
That's what I think, and I only know this. This is a Halo thing because Master Chief's height was always in meters, and I always just translated 3 feet to a meter.
Okay,
but it's not quite. It's like 2 point something.
Let's see, 3.28 feet to a meter. So not quite,
okay,
but like close. That's the one that I always remember. That's like, I can kind of ballpark this.
And let me again clarify here. No one here is speaking ill of the metric system. Our dumb imperial system is in no way superior. It's just, unfortunately, that's what I was taught, and I always treated the other one as, well, I don't need that.
I would switch in a heartbeat if society would get on board, but...
I need a Soundwave bite now of Soundwave doing a imperial inferior, metric superior. I always tell my kids, because I'm like, are you learning the metric system in school? And they're like, yes, we are. I'm like, thank God. You need to know this. This is information you will be better off.
Because when this country falls apart, they will replace the metric system, or the imperial system with the metric system at some point.
You know what makes sense? Base 10.
Base 10?
We already do our math in it, you know?
I'm going to get an abacus.
Oh, there you go.
That's how I do everything now.
Like for woodworking and oh my gosh, I had to do I talked about my silcock on another podcast, but I'll keep it off here. But
double dipping the silcock, huh?
Tubing diameters for like copper tube and all this stuff is just a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. Like, I'm terrible at math to begin with, but then when you start throwing in all this fractional stuff, that's like, all right, 3/8 is 3/8 bigger than, well, what would make sense here? Like 7/14 or something. So like, 7/14 would reduce
yes,
to 1.
Because that would be half.
1/7. Whatever.
That's just literally half.
Look, I told you I'm bad at math, but you get the idea.
I see what you're getting at. Yes.
They do them in 16ths, eighths, and like quarters and halves, and it's always just like, man. But then you go to buy something and it's like, no, this is 0.3 inches, right? And then it's like, well, I've got fractional measurements and they're like, okay, now let's just go into centimeters. The whole thing's a mess. Just learn metric. Let's just switch over. I would have to rebuy all of my rulers, which is a funny thing because rulers, ones I mostly have, they sell them in imperial or metric. Rarely do they have them on both sides for woodworking. Sometimes they do. So like, but I'm willing to do it. I'll do it if we all just switch over.
I bought a fancy new tape measure a few months ago because I was tired of using the one that doesn't retract anymore.
And
I thought I got the one with both, and it showed up with no metric, and I sent it back.
Oh,
I was like, what, if I can't use this thing to convert on the fly?
Yes.
What's the point?
What's the point? The only thing I feel like would really mess me up, actually, not that. Actually, it wouldn't. Forget it. I'll take it back. I was gonna say speeds for a little bit might mess me up, but like, I'll deal with it. Like, everybody just goes with the traffic anyway. Nobody looks at actually how fast anything is supposed to go. I guess maybe if you're on a road with nobody else, but like around here, that never happens.
Well, and I think a lot of car speedometers do have the KPH thing on there somewhere, so like you could probably figure it out.
I was mostly thinking like the cost that the United States would never want to incur to change all the road signs into kilometers per hour. Like we can't even get them maintained with cutting back the trees from covering them. I can't imagine them being like, we're going to go through and change every road sign here.
No, we don't do things like that in this country anymore. We don't do things like that.
Man, there's a whole Wikipedia article about this. Metrication in the United States.
It was close, wasn't it? I think it was close in the 70s.
1975, the Metric Conversion Act of 1975. They tried.
I'm very pro metric system. Does the UK, I guess people in the UK would have to tell me, is it a case where like all the kids use the metric system and then like all the kind of like their parents are still like, it's a half a pound, or is everybody just adopted?
As far as I know, at least from the time, one time I was in I guess technically twice. The 2 times I was in the UK, everyone just seemed to use metric. I mean, other than referring to people's weight as stone.
Yeah, okay.
Which is just some weird fucking, like, that weird island, that's just what they do. As far as I could tell, everything else is just metric.
So much easier.
Is this a real thing? UK residents? UK to revive imperial measurements to bring back, quote, British culture and heritage.
I'm sure it
says
is somewhere.
Member of Parliament.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is somewhere.
That's definitely what they should be prioritizing over there right now.
And they should bring back their fractional money too, where something costs like 1/8 a farthing, or
yes, 6 pence, none the richer.
Get rid of the decimal money.
They came up with this shit and foisted it on us, and then they dropped it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got a metric ton of stuff to get through today. You like that?
Nice.
I'm slamming them both together.
I'm going to give you that one.
Thank you. We're going to talk about Advance Wars, that Reboot Camp, a game that I wound up sleeping on the couch because I stayed up so late playing it, Stranded Alien Dawn. I haven't done that in a while. Horizon Forbidden West, Burning Shores, the DLC. But first, before we get to all of that, Alex Navarro.
Yes.
Link's back, baby.
Yep. It's almost like he never left, actually.
What's going down in Hyrule?
Yeah, so there's an embargo that came up today for a preview event they were holding for that. Their Tears of What Kingdom?
What kingdom is that?
I think it's Hyrule.
Hyrule. Okay.
And I went to it. I went to that event last week, and I got to play. Okay, it was a 2-hour demo, but I'd say the amount of Zelda I actually got to play during that demo was like 1 hour and 10 minutes.
That's a good chunk of Zelda.
That's not nothing, I'll say. Yeah. But yeah.
I'm still not used to this new world of press events happening in New York and not here.
It is weird, right?
It's like a relatively recent development.
So there wasn't like a sister event on the West Coast?
Sometimes they do that.
I inquired. There was not.
And Nintendo has definitely been pushing more on New York recently. I'm not exactly sure what prompted that, but I feel like maybe they just did the math and decided that every outlet has at least one person here.
I emailed them back after the invite came in, just saying, like, you're not doing it out here too, are you?
Uh-huh.
Nope.
No? Okay.
No Zelda for me.
Well, what's going on? What's going on in this Hyrulean world of crafting and flying and islands and
so probably
what have you?
Best way to explain this is to kind of say what they showed specifically, because, I mean, look, much like Breath of the Wild, this is a massive open world game. You can kind of go everywhere, do things the way that you would in Breath of the Wild, and they weren't gonna let us do that in this demo at all. So what they did was they put us in a very specific part of the map. They gave us like a section of ground and sky islands to kind of navigate my way through. Specifically because I think those areas at least gave you like a good early notion of how the new abilities work. So we weren't allowed to really go off the rails of what they were kind of designating, which is, hey, you are trying to get from the ground to this top sky island. We have put a marker there for you. How you get there is up to you, but you have to find your way up there one way or another.
Were there any limitations, invisible walls or anything built into this demo, or was this like a rep watching you and kind of kindly suggesting that you stick to the plan?
So they gave us an initial preamble where someone from the Treehouse, who I believe was one of the Treehouse people in charge of this project, gave us the kind of rundown on what we would be doing. And then after that, I was sat on a couch with like 2 or 3 Nintendo reps all staring at me while I played.
2 or 3.
Very nice. Okay, very kind. No heavy cajoling or anything, but very much like, hey, we just want to make sure you don't go where you're not supposed to. Like, I accidentally wandered into a shrine that was in the area, and they're like, that's great. Can you please turn around and walk out of there now?
If it's as open-ended as the first game, you could just make a beeline for the end of the game, right? I just enjoy the image of a Nintendo rep running in from out of nowhere and tackling somebody who is like trying to go find Ganon.
Just shoulder checking the TV off the thing.
Everyone in my demo behaved and they stuck to the area they were supposed to, but
I will say as a sidebar, at Nintendo events, the people who have run kiosks have always been, even if they're not full-time Nintendo employees, have always been extremely knowledgeable about the product. Compared to other
at E3, they always told their booth people, like, here is the exact rundown of what you need to tell people.
Yep.
Even people who were just clearly like hired event staff just there for the weekend to run the demos and then go on to the next gig.
New control schemes.
Still could answer questions about things.
Yep, they're very good. So I'm not saying that was the case here. I'm just saying Nintendo does their homework when it comes time to put on a demo.
Yes.
So did they brief you on the powers before setting you loose? Was that part of the 20, 30 minutes
They did, yes.
Okay.
So there's one thing that I sort of can't really describe in any major detail, but I'll get to that in a little bit. But there's a few, like, they showed the abilities that they have, like, teased out thus far. There is the craft ability, which is sort of, taking the objects in the world, smashing them together, and doing your nuts and boltsing to create vehicles or other devices you can use to get around. There is fuse, which is you're taking an object and attaching it to your weapon or your shield or whatever and getting some new dynamic out of that, ranging from, hey, this is just a little bit stronger to, okay, now this thing tracks. Like, you attach it to an arrow and now it tracks to an enemy.
That's like the eyeball thing they showed.
Exactly. Yeah. And then there is the going up through the ceiling thing. I forget the exact name of it, but it's the one where you basically can just, like, phase through the roofs of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I was doing was they kind of planted you in front of like a fort that had like a bunch of moblins and other, bad guys in it. And they're like, you need to get to the top of that tower. And from there, that's how you're going to get onto the first Sky Island. And then from there, it's kind of up to you to figure out how you get to the rest of them.
Sorry, did you say you had the rewind time one or you didn't have that?
Okay, I don't think I did any time rewinding during my demo.
Okay. Okay.
My understanding is I think all the powers are new.
Yeah, the timer one is the one they showed, like when you said get to the top of the island, I remember that's the one they showed the block going up and down, like down in the little demo they had.
Okay. Yeah. You know what? Maybe I think actually that was in there. You're right, because I think I did recall a vehicle at one point. So yes, I think that was in there.
Yeah, it's not rewinding time for everything. It's for a specific object.
Yeah. So I did. I didn't use that very much, but I did end up using it once or twice just to test it out.
Cool. Okay.
But so yeah, like what I ended up doing was I ended up bypassing the combat altogether at the beginning. Like I straight up, there's like a like I forget exactly what I did, but I managed to create a lift, like using a platform and a couple of fans, I think, that sort of like raised me up off the ground. And then from there, I kind of launched myself using the hang glider to the top of the tower and just completely skipped over the part where you fight the moblins or any of the other dudes.
So you did the construction?
Yes, I did a fair amount of the constructing.
How is it?
It's pretty easy. Like there's a little bit of fiddliness to it, but what I've gathered is that as long as you are reasonably precise, you will be able to make the vehicles do what you want. Like the fans don't have to be centimeters into the right space to be balanced. Like there's kind of like a far, middle, front, depending on the size of the object you're planting yourself on. It's pretty easy to create a balanced object.
Forgiving.
Does it feel limiting in any way? Like you kind of see it in the gameplay demo they put out that like it looks like things attached to each other in kind of fixed increments, like you just described. Not like it's not totally free form how things plug together, and so like that seems good to an extent from a usability standpoint because you're going to make sure things line up and work. But also, I wonder if at some point it's going to constrain how creative you can get if things can only bolt together in so many ways.
Well, so you can kind of bolt it onto anywhere. It's just that not everywhere will get you the desired result, you know? So like if you're putting the fans on kind of, you know, the weird middle parts of the plank that you're on, like that's not going to make the thing propel forward. And sometimes there are like specific launching areas or spaces where it's like, this is clearly the place you want to put this so that it will launch in the direction you want. Like one of the puzzles I solved was actually just rotating part of one of the sky islands to make sure that I could then get the launch thing going in the direction I wanted.
So, okay. Do you mind if I just dig in and just ask?
Yeah, just ask questions. Like I can address what I can.
Do you have an inventory of parts, or do you only use the things that are around you?
You are able to pick up certain parts, I think, and but generally it seems, at least from the stuff that I played, the things you are looking for are usually not too far away from where the next step is.
So it's not like you're carrying around a fan forever in hopes that you're going to someday use it.
I mean, you can carry around some fans if you want, if you have the parts, but
do you have an inventory of parts? You can stow them or no?
Okay, it has been a week, so I'm just trying to remember the exact inventory, because there's a difference between your weapons and inventory and then obviously your other stuff. And I think you might be somewhat limited in terms of like how many parts you can store.
Okay.
But I think I remember there being some parts in my inventory as well.
Okay.
It's kind of like,
that's interesting.
Reminds me a little bit of the Chia thing, where it's like Chia lets you store like kind of anything, including like, say, a dog.
Right.
Or like a lit lantern, and just whip it out and use it whenever the need arises. So yeah, I could see this getting way crazier if you are able to carry things like fans with you and use them in places you probably shouldn't. But
right.
I would not be shocked if they restrict like bigger objects from being carried around indefinitely.
So it seems like at least some version of those objects are frequently available. You know, like they're called, I think, Zonai artifacts or something.
Yeah.
But and I didn't see like a gigantic variety of those, but it seems like they are plentiful, and you will not often be in a situation where there is just nothing around for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like one of the ongoing craziest things about Breath of the Wild is that people are still posting weird physics videos 5 years later. And so it makes me wonder, like, if you could take a bunch of fans into the fight with Ganon, assuming you fight Ganon in this, like, are people just going to attach a bunch of fans to Ganon and fly him off the map? I don't know. Like, that's the kind of wild game-breaking stuff that I hope to see.
That was actually going to be my next question, was like, did you hit zones where they're like, you can't build here, or do they have those like portal or portal 2 barriers that's like, oh, you go through this and all your fans disappear, or like stuff where what is it called, Ultra Hand, or like no, sorry, the Ultra Hand is not allowed here.
Yeah. So the thing with that, and so Ultra Hand is the build, like that's the build ability. And so it's possible that like when you go into shrines, maybe that stuff doesn't work. Again, they did not let me do that, so I don't know.
Okay.
But again, from what they showed in the areas I was in, it did not seem like there were like any kind of barriers to just using what you had at your disposal.
Interesting. Did you, I'm sorry if you can't answer these. These are such specific questions.
This has an incredibly specific embargo, so there will probably be a couple of things I just literally can't talk about yet.
When you were building stuff, did it seem to have some kind of thermometer or counter or anything that was like a parts counter that's like the complexity is getting too high, or you've used too many pieces?
I didn't see anything like that. Like, if there's like 7 fans around, I don't think there's anything necessarily stopping you from just putting 7 fans on a plank and seeing what happens, other than just space considerations.
I was also going to think of Switch limitations, too. You're going to crash this game if you put too many fans like spinning in a giant circle or something.
I'd like to think the team has been spending their time figuring out ways to break the game so that doesn't happen when people start playing it in the wild.
Yeah, in the Breath of the Wild. I assume it's probably some kind of parts counter. There's also a energy cost, right, to powering your vehicle?
Yes, there is an energy cost. Turning the objects off will cause them to recharge, so it's not like you're constantly having to find resources to charge them up.
Okay.
Or at least the ones I saw, that was how it was set up, so.
Okay.
I saw that clip. I don't know. I guess they were letting people shoot the screen in this and post clips of it, but I saw Gene Park from the Post posted that clip this morning.
Yeah, they were letting people take very limited amounts of footage, and I think they did provide a little bit of B-roll for it.
Of him like flying a battery-powered flying machine he had made up to an island and just barely making it before the battery died and having to like bail onto the side of the island and just grab on before it crashed.
I had that happen a couple of times. There's also a thing you can plant on the ground somewhere. So if you make it to a sky island and then you want to fuck around and see if you can figure out how to get to the next one, you can have a reset ability so that you reset back to that island.
Oh,
like there's like a badge you can drop down on the ground that was like, you will reset here if you want to.
That's smart. That seems very much like enough playtesting made it clear that it was going to get real annoying to have to recover from falls all the time.
Yes.
Because it's pretty high, right?
Because I fell multiple times, and the first couple of times I did it, I forgot to put that badge down, and then when I did it, I was like, oh, that's very handy.
Man, as someone who still reflexively hates jumping into hay bales in Assassin's Creed, like that does not sound fun to me. Like, do you just fall all the way to the ground?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got your glider, so you can glide for a little bit, but...
Sure, that helps. Like, do you take fall damage if you fall from 5 miles up?
Pretty sure you do.
Okay.
I'm sure I will think of more annoying questions about the building later, Alex, but I want to keep you from going after you've built your flying contraption.
Yeah, so look, mostly what I did was play around with those abilities, but yeah.
How do you steer it?
So like one of the things I built was a straight up like flying raft from one island to another, and I used a launching area that was like sort of had like a little groove in it where I just kind of planted it down there, and it was almost like a runway. So on there, the first time I did that, it was going great, and then someone launched something at me from the other island, and so I shifted my weight, and that caused the thing to tilt in a direction like it was an actual flying machine. And so that actually tilted me to a point where I fell off the thing. So when you are on something like that, for instance, you kind of need to stand in the center and try to be careful about how you're shifting your weight, because that will cause you to turn or pitch in a way that maybe you're not expecting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The big question, was it fun?
I mean, did you like Breath of the Wild?
Yes.
Okay, but this is not Breath of the Wild stuff we're talking about. Like the building and the flying on the thing sounds awesome.
But structurally, I think it is very similar. You know?
I think like philosophically, in the sense that they're just going to turn you loose with more powers this time, and specifically more building powers. But it sounds like philosophically, just as a big open sandbox to play in, it's definitely similar.
Yeah, it's still doing the same basic notions. Like the combat feels very similar to Breath of the Wild. the running around the like the ground level definitely feels very much like Breath of the Wild. So
did they give any sense? I bet they did not, of like the overarching structure of the game. You know, like the first game had the four beasts you could go tackle and then go fight Ganon, but even those were optional if you wanted. Like, did they talk about dungeons, number of objectives, anything at all?
They gave no indications as far as that stuff goes, other than to say it's another giant open world, you know, approach it how you want. But like, it was just that top line stuff. Nothing about hard numbers of like, how many dungeons will you have to complete, you know, to get X number of things. You know, none of that stuff was in there.
Interesting. Shrines, though, like you said, definitely shrines still a thing.
Shrines are definitely still in there in some capacity, yeah.
Definitely still a thing.
Yeah.
What was the weirdest thing you fused?
Mm-hmm.
Or
I didn't get too buck wild with it, though at one point I literally fused a minecart to my shield for no reason. Because I wanted to see if it would work, and it did.
That kind of answers my follow-up question, which is, like, are there a lot of restrictions on things you can fuse together? But I would not have expected that to work, so maybe not.
I think there is like a literally a highlight system where it's like, if it is something that can be fused and used in the fuse ability, it will highlight a certain color when you are kind of like, you know, moving your ability like reticule around. So like, and it's the same thing with the hand stuff. Like, you know, if it isn't an object you can use the construction ability with, then it won't highlight that way.
Is there a difference between, say, like highlighting the minecart to your shield versus something that generates fuses to become a new item? Like, is there like, oh, this, when you combine these two things, it's now this heat-seeking arrow that is a named thing?
I didn't see anything that was specifically named. It was more just like, you know, minecart shield now. You know, like it just kind of combined, it literally just took the two things that it was and made that the term.
Yes, in the grand tradition of plain boat car. Just name things what they're made out of.
Yes.
Man.
It did shrink the minecart when I did that. It was the size of the shield as opposed to the shield becoming the size of the minecart, but it was still very goofy looking.
Was the game running okay? Just fine?
So, yeah, that's like the $1 billion question, right? So what I'm able to say is that from what I saw very little in the way of frame rate dip. There were a couple of places where I was getting real high up there and there was a lot of cloud cover where it maybe chugged slightly, but it was very minor. That said, I did not go into any towns. I did not go into any majorly populated areas. And the thing that was alluded to me was that there will probably be a day one patch that, you know, even wherever it is now, it will run better on day one than it does in current preview builds. So
like that goes without saying.
Yeah, it does kind of go without saying, but you want to hear him say it just so you can be like, okay.
Did they change the stamina system?
No, you've still got stamina.
You still have stamina for climbing? I thought there was something I'm trying to recall from the demo they showed that maybe I'm just thinking of that you can pass through ceilings now.
Yeah, the pass through ceilings thing really does make things easier as far as that stuff goes, because you're not like, obviously you can't go through every single ceiling, but as long as there is like a place for you to stand on top of it, you can go through it. It seems like.
Okay, this is a question maybe they didn't address, or maybe this is embargoed. Do you bring in anything from your previous save, do you know?
No idea.
No idea. Okay.
No idea.
Did you have the Master Sword?
Trying to remember what weapons I had. I definitely had some swords and not just like a bunch of sticks or whatever, but
okay.
I don't remember seeing the Master Sword as the thing that I had in my inventory.
Actually, okay, maybe you don't want to answer this. Maybe you can't answer this. Do we know if this takes place after the events of Breath of the Wild?
It is a sequel, though I think it's some years later.
So it's not the prequel stuff where he's like the squire running around with her?
I don't think so, unless there's some flashback stuff in there I don't know about. It seemed that the implication seemed to be that this is the continuation of that story.
Okay. I'm excited for this one. I wasn't, and then that last big thing with Ultra Hand and all the abilities came out, I was like, oh man, that does seem like a sandbox full of dumb stuff to do.
This looks like it's weird as hell. It's not what I would have expected out of a Zelda game ever.
But neither was Breath of the Wild when it came around, you know? Like, and it feels like they are escalating on the framework of what was successful about that game, but also not just making that game again. And I will say, real quick, that like the tools as they are presented or were presented to me, it feels like they are not punishing experimentation in a major way. Like, you should be able to fuck around and try stuff and see if things work as much as you want, and you're not going to get yourself into a weird stuck position where, like, you feel like you're just banging your head against stuff. Like, it feels like there are multiple solutions to at least just about everything that I saw.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the thing you said at the beginning about, like, oh, they had a thing there to fight, and instead I just flew around it. Like, being able to circumvent and subvert the stuff they want you to do is the biggest joy, I think, that you can take from stuff like this. So, yeah. That's awesome. I mean, the reason this seems weird to me, though, is, like, Breath of the Wild, at least you kind of see the connective tissue to, like, the very first Zelda, you know, of, like, oh, they're trying to recapture that spirit of, like, you can go anywhere. It's a big open world, kind of like the first game was. But this is so, again, nuts and bolts. Like, it's really just... you just put scrap mechanic or nuts and bolts in here. Like, at least with the last one, it was like, okay, there is some Zelda legacy being played on here. Here it's just, building vehicles is awesome, and we wanted to put that in here, so here you go.
And again, I don't know exactly how buck wild you can get with that stuff. Like, I haven't seen anyone try, like, I didn't do anything that required more than, like, 2 or 3 parts to combine, you know? Like, it wasn't like I was, like, I'm literally building a full-on smoking contraption out of, like, different pieces of machinery or anything. It was like, no, I just built flying rafts. They're like, basically like a giant paper airplane, more or less. But, like, it feels like it won't be long before the people who are most dedicated to this game will uncover some things that are just truly, like, ridiculous.
I wonder, being a Zelda game, if, like, you could imagine when you get the ability, or at some point there are enemies that you have to use the crafting on, like they have a big shield and you have to attach weights or something or fans to the big shield to spin them around or backwards, or I mean when Nintendo puts a mechanic in, I feel like they really try to be as creative with it as possible, and sometimes annoyingly so. If everybody remembers, you know, the what was it, which is the Zelda where you had the motion controls and the enemies were doing like the voguing. Yeah. Where it's like, okay, you're just taking this too far. But sometimes it's very clever and very fun.
Yeah. When it works, it works.
Yeah. I really am looking forward to it. And this is sooner than later now, because it's what, 2 weeks?
12th, right? Yeah. Isn't it May 12th? Good Lord.
Man. That's fun. And there's still more embargo?
Well, so there was an ability that was in there that I was not really allowed to talk about yet, though it's related to one of the other ones. So that's all I can say.
Something they haven't shown yet?
I don't think you could say.
It might be something they've alluded to before, but I don't think they've shown it exactly yet.
Okay.
But anyway, they were just like, you can say something like this is in here, but you can't say what it is or how it works. And so I'm going to bypass that altogether and just say I'm not going to do it here.
Okay.
I have to imagine there is a video coming sometime in the next 7 days that will demonstrate some of that.
Do you have a horse?
I started out on the horse.
Can you attach stuff to the horse?
I didn't try. I should have. Thank you for next. That's the first thing I'm doing when I get into that game. Yes. I'm going to put a fan on a horse.
Put fans on the horse, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Make it run faster. That's just physics.
Yeah.
Or at least put the horse on your fan platform and see what happens when you set that thing up, if that horse will fly.
I mean, legitimately, the first thing I'm going to do if I ever get to that Ganon fight is I'm going to see how many fans I can attach to him and if that does anything.
Can you attach? Were you able to attach objects
not to living
enemies?
Things that I saw, but that doesn't mean it's not in there. No. It's just I didn't see it.
Like I said, I'm sure there will be something where you have to attach some kind of item to an enemy's armor or shield or head or something. Very cool. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. In about 2 weeks, you said the 12th is the release date on that?
Yeah.
May 12th. Coming to a Switch near you. Excited. Let's take a quick break here. We'll come back with some more Nintendo business with Advance Wars in just a moment. Be right back. This week's episode is brought to you by Factor. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kits. Alex Navarro.
Yes, Vinny Caravella.
I've had some Factor. It's pretty good.
I have too. They bring you meals that are in containers where you can put them in the oven, you can microwave them. There's a number of different ways you can heat them. They have smoothies. They got a pretty good variety of stuff.
Factor's fresh, never frozen meals ready in just 2 minutes. So all you have to do is heat and enjoy and then you can go back and do whatever you wanted to do as the weather gets nicer out there, like go inside and play video games.
Hell yeah.
You can get back to doing that. You can try their dietitian-approved calorie-smart meals with around or fewer than 550 calories per serving. They also have a bunch of other menu options for your variety of lifestyles, from keto to calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and protein plus. They're all prepared by chefs and approved by dietitians, and each meal has all of the ingredients you need to feel satisfied all day long while meeting your goals.
My goal is to eat good food.
With Factor, you can rest assured you're making a sustainable choice. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions to your door, source 100% renewable electricity for their production sites and offices, and feature sustainably sourced seafood in their meals. How can you get on this Factor tip? Well, listen to this. You can head to factormeals.com/Nextlander50 and use code Nextlander50 to get 50% off your first box. So that's code Nextlander50 at factormeals.com/Nextlander50, and that'll get you 50% off your first box over at Factor. Thanks, Factor. We are back, and we're not done with the Switch just yet. Alex Navarro, tell me about this Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp.
We might be done with the Switch. The Switch ain't done with us.
That's nice. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Advance Wars. That's a game I never really played back when it was on the old Game Boy, where it started and moved to the DS. But everyone around me for years told me, you should play these games. And I said, no, I don't like tactics games. And then at some point, I decided I actually do like tactics games. So when they announced they were going to do this collection, which includes Advance Wars 1 and 2, I was like, finally, my time is here. And then they delayed it a year for, well, understandable reasons. War. Yeah, literal war. So whatever math they did, they decided it was time for that collection to come out now. And I've been playing it. I've mostly been playing I've only been playing the first Advance Wars campaign, because if you tell the game you have never played Advance Wars before, it keeps the other one locked for you until you are ready to go with that one. So, but I'm pretty deep into the campaign on 1.
So you played some of this on one of our streams. I can't remember if it was a grab bag or on a grab bag.
It was a grab bag.
Yeah, okay. Grab bag Friday or grab bag Thursday. But, you were pretty early on. Have things changed dramatically, or is that pretty much the cadence?
I mean, it's the cadence. Like, it's every new mission they escalate by, introducing new units or a new terrain type or some other thing that you have to consider when you are, approaching your battles. But
new commanding officers.
Exactly. And they all come with their own special ability. But, the general rhythm of the game is the same. You are just trying to either capture the enemy's base or destroy all of their units, or, if they have a factory, also capture their factory so they can't make more units.
And when you were playing, you were kind of wrapping your head around capturing versus movement and all this stuff. Do you feel like you've got it under control at this point?
So I've moved from feeling like I don't really fully understand what the strategy here is to I can win most battles without having to restart, but it is a grind still, because I've not quite figured out how to quickly navigate my way through the spaces and win battles. It's more of a, okay, I'm now like 22 days into this one battle, and it's like, I'm going to win this, but I'm still going to take me another 5 turns before I get there.
You have to burn 8 infantry units.
Yes.
As meat shields so you can wear this thing down. Yeah.
Do you get the ability to produce units or call in reinforcements?
Yeah, I mean, so they introduced the factories pretty early on, and those let you create new units. I think at a certain point you get the ability to create air units and water units as well. Right now I have those, but I can't create them.
Okay, I was going to ask if there were air units in 1 or if that was a 2 thing. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, like jet planes, helicopters, and bombers are at the very least in this one. There might be others, but those are the ones I've seen so far.
As units that are provisioned to you at the start of the campaign?
Yes.
Okay. Or a level?
It depends on the level, yeah.
But you're enjoying it?
I am. So, like, everyone, I'm going to say right now, everyone was right. Advanced Wars is pretty goddamn good.
It's awesome.
I have not tried any multiplayer yet. I've been told that apparently the online is only available to people on your friends list, which is an interesting choice.
They sure did elect to not implement matchmaking in this.
I don't really understand why, but then again, I never fully understand every decision that Nintendo makes, so I'm just going to say, chalk this one up to, well, it's a Nintendo move. Sure, why not?
Well, you know, I mean, that is a fairly big can of worms design-wise to design that kind of multiplayer. But
well, yeah, and I mean, again, the original games were on GBA, so there was no online aspect to them. That is something you would have to add.
This is
$60.
This is a $60 game.
Okay, so it is kind of full priced.
They get 2 games.
Yeah, and they're not short games, is the thing. Like, those campaigns run reasonably long.
This is the true gauge of how hard you are going to me. Have you turned off the battle animations yet?
You can do that?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure you could in the original.
Shit, I gotta go do that.
Okay.
Because, then it's taking too fucking long.
Yes, if you want to do that, that means you're in pretty deep then.
Can I just turn off the enemy battle animations? I like watching my guys destroy people. I just don't want to watch my guys destroyed.
Interesting.
So there's a fast
forward. But they should have.
There is a fast forward button, which I have been using liberally. But if there is, it's probably in the menu, and I haven't looked for it, so I should go do that.
I'd swear the originals let you do it, because I feel like I have a memory of like starting battles and just watching the numbers go down on the units instantly. It is a very much more expeditious way to play that game.
I bet. Even during the stuff you showed, Alex, that's the thing that kind of crossed my mind first, was like, oh, I bet after a while this is taking too long.
Yes, some of these battles do go on. I wouldn't say they are like laborious, but they definitely like. And again, the stage I'm at with like understanding the strategy is that I can win by attrition. I don't tend to win in overwhelming fashion yet.
That was all. It just occurred to me that was also something I did in Wargroove.
Oh,
which was also on the Switch a few years ago, which was very much attempting to be a fantasy Advance Wars.
I had totally forgot about that game.
Immediately just turn off those animations so you can just fly through everything as fast as possible. What do you think about the look of it? Because watching you play it, it looks fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but it feels a little generic to me. It just feels a little sort of generic 3D graphics when the very cartoony pixel art of the originals had like a certain style to them. This feels a little less stylish.
It definitely feels like they sanded some of the edges off in a way that maybe does make it look a little more generic. But, I mean, it's cute. I haven't really... like, I like looking at the little tanks and the little guys running around. Like, I think that stuff is fine. The character art is whatever. Like, it's just cute cartoon people.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
I almost feel like maybe it would have been nice to see what this looked like cel-shaded or with some kind of shader of that nature on it.
Yeah.
Kind of evoke the look of the sprites a little more.
But I don't think it looks bad. It's just, it's not like, you know, nothing about it visually super like pops.
It has the look of a very popular like mobile game or something, you know, like in that.
I mean,
like,
it was one of the original mobile games, you know, back before mobile games were mobile games. You know what I mean?
You know who was the first mobile game?
Jesus.
Yes. I think it looks neat. I kind of was debating whether or not to pick it up this weekend. I did not, but that's for other reasons. But I think I might. I don't know.
I played a lot of it this weekend. I was surprised how much I wanted to keep playing it, but I really wanted to keep playing it. I played some more today, and it's good, man.
It's weird. I don't know. I was all hyped for this to come out, and then somehow watching you play it kind of cooled me on it a little bit.
I don't think it's a great game to watch. Like, and granted, I was not, you know, it was literally the first time I booted it up. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. But I think it's one of those games where it's like, when you're in it and you're making the decisions, it grabs you.
Yeah, I don't know. It just made me think, like, maybe I should just fire up the Mister and go play the original a little bit and get my fill there.
I think that's a perfectly valid way to approach it, if that's how you want to do it. If I had access to the GBA versions, I certainly would probably check them out, but I don't. So this is my way of playing.
I also think it's a big difference for folks like for you and for me that haven't played it before versus like if you've played this already.
That was part of it.
Seeing like, oh yeah, this takes a lot of time.
That was part of it. Well, it wasn't that so much as it was like seeing it and going like, oh yeah, okay, I remember this. I played this game. Yeah. I played both of these back when they came out. It's like if it had been a brand new game, maybe it'd be a little more.
Right. Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp.
It is finally here.
It is here. It is $60 on the Switch.
Pretty good.
Check it out.
Pretty damn good.
All right, so here's a game that took over my weekend in a weird way.
Sounds like an unexpected way.
Mostly just the last couple of days, actually, and maybe not even the weekend. I finished up Burning Shores this weekend, but this game, Stranded Alien Dawn, it had been kind of pitched to me as maybe this is a modernized 3D RimWorld, in that vein, and I see where that's coming from, though I don't have that much familiarity with RimWorld or Dwarf Fortress, but it's of a kind. It really, to me, and this is probably just because it's more of my area of knowledge, feels like an RTS survival game, which is, I guess, Dwarf Fortress and RimWorld. But the premise is, in one of the scenario I'm in, you are crash landed on this alien world with all of these things are variable, but in my scenario, with 4 people, take apart the ship, scavenge resources, build your lean-to or your start tech treeing up and chop down wood and get into fabrication of stoves and houses. And it has very much a hostile tower defense style vibe too. The more you go, you're going to start getting attacked by the local fauna.
It's a bug holdout.
Yeah, so kind of a bug.
Looks of things. I am downloading this as we speak.
So
apologies if it messes with my connection, but I see this and I'm like, this looks cool.
So it's super cool. So I guess this has been in early access for a while, and I saw it and I was like, it's modernized and looks good, and the UI is good enough to get me through some of the things that maybe Dwarf Fortress and RimWorld, though they might be much more deeper and complex. That complexity can kind of be a little intimidating, or at least, hey, these are systems that have been built on for sometimes decades. This feels much more approachable, maybe lighter, like you're not necessarily going into the bio of a character and seeing their history over hundreds of years, but there is depth in there for sure. And yeah, it's freaking hard. Like my crew is running around. I'm on my second year. Half of the people don't have shoes. Like, it's winter. It's the second year in winter, and people are just getting hypothermia.
I've been wanting to ask what is up with these stock photo ass character portraits of your people in this and why they look so goddamn severe. But when you tell me none of them have shoes, I guess I would look pretty grumpy too.
That does kind of make some sense.
The art is kind of interesting, and I don't know what the background on the art is. If you told me they hired an artist to go through this stuff and make portraits, I'd believe you. If they told me they went to Midjourney and typed in severe-looking portraits, I would also believe that.
Yes, if absolutely, these definitely have a bit of an AI portrait look to them, but everybody looks really pissed off.
I really don't know, but there is kind of nice key art in the game also, so maybe they did hire an artist to go through and generate that stuff for it. I don't know.
Yeah, totally.
But the idea is, you have durability. So everybody starts with their spacesuits, and then over the course of a year, those things start breaking down. And then my guys are just running around with no pants on because I have to get hides and I have to get leathers and stuff to get these pants. But I only have 4 people now. I have 6. But it's the kind of tech tree where it's sci-fi. So you're building solar panels at some point. I've got managing the grid and you get this kind of cool wrinkle where the map is not exceptionally big, but you also can't expand very quickly. So you get this, you can kind of scroll to the edges fairly effortlessly with your mouse to be like, oh, okay, this isn't that big, but you're just not expanding. I feel like I'm not expanding that quickly because of the limited amount of people you have, or at least that I have. 4 people is not a lot to start with in this thing.
Is there some concept of a campaign or a story, or are you just starting a scenario? Is it just here's a generated map, go? Or
so there are a couple of quote unquote scenarios where it's this one is the one I'm playing through is you are from a crash landed ship with 4 people. One of the other ones said is you're a trader setting up an outpost on this. So there are a couple of different planets. I kind of went with what the default was for each thing. It's not necessarily very story-based, though it's a little light in that front.
Mm-hmm.
You do get events that happen where you can go into this kind of meta layer and search further in the environment that's off your map kind of thing, if that makes sense. Like,
okay,
hey, do you want to send an expedition to this event that's going to take 2 days? And then you'll get kind of the dialogue prompt that's like, hey, I found an abandoned camp, or hey, I found another survivor. Should I bring them back? That's kind of the most narrative style stuff. It's kind of when it turns more into almost like 4X style prompts of things. It's like, what should I do? Should I push on or should I come back? And it's like, push on will have a horrible something happen rating of this, So your characters each have stats. They're named. They have problems. Like one guy he's got irritable bowel syndrome. So, came in with IBS, which he keeps waking up because he's got a pain threshold that's like, crap, I can't get rid of this. I've got a person who now has a painful scar because they got really injured in a battle, and they're under pain most of the time. So it's interesting like that. I have cheesed it and reloaded a couple of times after a party wipe. So or even when somebody dies, I'm still getting a hang of what the game is asking for me. But I played for like 6 hours straight from 8 o'clock last night, maybe to like 2 or 3 in the morning.
You don't do that very often.
And it was one of those things where I just want to keep going. I just want to see what's going on here. And it was super cool. Like I said, I'm still figuring out what exactly I need to do when the combat kicks off, because it can turn bad very quickly.
Are you playing with a controller?
Started on the mouse. And then when I went upstairs, I was like at 12 o'clock, I was like, I want to go see if this works on the. It's got full controller support. So I went upstairs and I did it on the Steam Link with the controller. It took me a little bit to get used to it, but I was able to. But today when I came back, I was like, I'll play this back on the mouse. It was fine on the controller, but I think really for me, I found myself being able to move a bit faster with the mouse.
Does this seem okay? So this is very me. I've been looking for a game of this nature, like a really heavy simulation game, and I don't know how heavy is the simulation in this. Like, does it feel like it's pushing the hardware in a way that some other like more complex 4X games are? The reason I ask is that this new CPU I've got, and also the one I just sent you, the 5800 X3D that you just got courtesy of a kind benefactor.
Yeah.
Those things love strategy games more than, or put it like the other way.
Bound.
Strategy games love those things more than just about anything. It's crazy. It's not like high frame rate demanding graphical games.
Yeah.
It's stuff like Factorio and Stellaris and Hearts of Iron and anything that is pushing crazy Dwarf Fortress.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything that's got like ridiculous amounts of simulation going on. Like you'll see people talking about. It's funny. I've been reading a lot of discussion among people who are super into those games and how much they love these CPUs with all this extra cache. They don't talk in terms of frame rate. They talk in number of like turns per second. It's this thing can simulate 100 days per second or 100 turns per second compared to like 240 on this new chip. It's crazy. Like it's hilarious to watch people get excited about like how fast the simulation in games like this is running. I don't know if this is a good use case. Test case for that.
Yeah, it doesn't have that. I know exactly what you're talking about because it used to happen to me on like a Civ thing where I would have to hit the spacebar to end turn, and then all the enemies would take their turn. And it would take forever.
Yeah,
I'd have to zoom out to the cloud cover so nothing animated. It's not that type of game. Like it's not like I chop a tree down and math starts happening all across it's more of, or at least I haven't gotten there. Like I said, most of the stuff that is shocking to me is how intense it is in its small scale nature. So my little outpost is still fairly small. There's just not too much going on there, but it's so intense. And just keeping track of the characters, there is a little fiddliness with the micromanagement. I want to call this, I'm sure somebody has called it this, Sim World, where it is just this, feels like a mashup, The Sims meets RimWorld in this way that it looks like The Sims.
Right.
And some of the weird things that happen in The Sims where you're like, why is this character spinning around in a circle? Or like, is not doing the thing they should be doing, or why are they eating the wrong food? Like those type of things sometimes happen, and you have to like get in there and micromanage and be like, dude, these berries are gonna go bad. Make the food out of the berries. I prioritize this in the kitchen. Sometimes that doesn't feel like it's working as I'm intending it to work. But on the other hand, a lot of the systems seem great. Like they seem like the building seems very functional and great. The resource management, like we encountered this in Dwarf Fortress, so it'd be familiar. It's got that palletized storage thing where you just set an area as pallets and people will put items in there, and being able to say what should go in that pallet is very easy.
Gotcha.
And you can copy and paste those rules onto other things. There's a schedule for people that is very manageable. The UI I found to be generally pretty good.
Okay.
It's a lot of fun. I want to get back in there. So what I found was a thing that just recently was a research option to research an orbital communications relay. So I'm stranded on this planet. The text for this is basically like, hey, it's time to get saved. So I don't know if that is a pathway to ending a campaign or not.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of my other question. Following on from is there a campaign? Is like, what is the win scenario? Is that it? Is it just get off the planet?
So I'm not exactly sure. So I haven't researched it yet. It's in my queue to research. I don't know if you build that thing and then it takes like so much ungodly power, you have to be at this other state, or if it takes other things. It could be that triggers some kind of end event, and you get a title card that's like, hey, you won. You can keep playing, or you can wrap up your campaign. I don't know. What I do know is I have laser rifles and crossbows, and that's pretty cool to me. Like being able to make weird polymer armor, and some people don't have shoes, is like, there's something very cool about that. Building stuff from the scraps of the spaceship and then having to build wood cabins over here. It's like a neat aesthetic that I really enjoy. I also like games where you are building fortified defenses, and that is definitely this game. The tutorial for it is like, hey, here are your automated turrets with traps in front of them for when the monsters come. I love that stuff. It's very appealing to me. So that is Stranded Alien Dawn. I'm really enjoying it. It's $35. I think it's on Epic and Steam. I don't know if it's got full controller support. I don't know if it's coming to consoles or not at any point. But it's neat.
Might have to give this a shot.
Sounds cool.
It's one of those types of games if you're listening to it. So I don't think it's not an RTS game. It is definitely more on the
simulation side,
the Dwarf Fortress RimWorld side of things. But also, having played so much Sons of the Forest, it feels like an RTS meets survival game. That's just kind of the first thing I was like, oh yeah, go collect the wood and, start building our base. And it's just a weird thing because we've just played so much of that. It just feels like now I've got this helicopter view of the three of us doing those things, trying to survive.
There's a hot air balloon.
So that's the thing you use to go on those expeditions. That's like the kind of meta layer, or not, meta is not the right word, but the kind of more... You're not going to go use the balloon. You're going to take the balloon. It's like Assassin's Creed. Hey, go send your assassins on a mission.
Sure.
Thing. But it's neat. Sometimes they come back and they bring resources and shoes, which is
sometimes I'm guessing they don't come back.
I have not had anybody die. I have had people come back with smoke inhalation because they stayed out too long. Winter is rough. Winter, you have to heat your place, and so you could do centralized heating. You can put furnaces in there. When you hover over, it gives you, so maybe this is kind of like the simulation stuff, but it doesn't bog the computer down. When you hover over a building, it'll tell you the inside temperature, and when you hover outside a building, it'll tell you the outside temperature. So they're trying to do some kind of thermodynamics of like, okay, air can flow from this room to this if you put a vent on it or not, and all of those things, but it's not overly weighty in that sense. It's hard though.
Yeah.
Stranded Alien Dawn. The other thing that I spent the weekend doing was finishing up Horizon Forbidden West, The Burning Shores.
How long did it have taken you?
I don't know the hour count. It wrapped up faster than I thought it would.
Yeah, I can't speak for you, obviously, but I've seen people throw like 10 hours around.
There is some side stuff in there, but it's not super deep.
I saw like a breakdown of like how many story missions, and like I think they said it was only like 2 main side quests, but it seems like it's mostly focused on kind of core story content.
Yeah, so I definitely did an extra like a capital S side quest in it, for sure, and I did the cauldron that's in it. I don't know if that counts as a side quest, but it didn't seem necessary. They didn't I don't think it led me to the cauldron, so I don't know if that counts as one. There are some minor side things. I think they call them tasks or something in the game. Some of those. It's cool. It's neat. It's not too far afield. I'll say this. Remember how last time I was like, boy, it's hard to come back into the combat and remember what every single buff and debuff and all these weapons do. They kind of solve that problem pretty quickly.
Oh.
You get some new armaments that are a thing I pretty much just use exclusively for the rest of the game.
I see.
That was like, great. Okay, cool.
I guess that's one way to glide past that problem.
Yeah.
Is it something in the bow, tripcaster, slingshot kind of vein?
I don't want to give too much away because it's
category.
It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun, so I don't give too much away. But they give you new armor, they give you new weapons, and in addition to giving you the new types of like new legendary weapons to get, there's new types of weapons, or at least one specific one that is pretty useful, which is great because it allows you to get through some of the more tedious parts of the combat where you're like, oh man, okay, great, let's just move through this. I'm trying to think if you get any more traversal stuff. You get some slight new traversal stuff that's not as exciting as maybe I thought it would be. Narratively, though, I think you had mentioned, Brad, that you had heard like, oh, this feels like must-see campaign for the next game. Obviously, this game takes place after the events of Forbidden West, so I'm not going to talk too much about what happens there. Oh, in terms of it being necessary, yeah, I mean, but though I feel like if you don't get to it, they will just recap what happened there.
Sure.
But the character and the kind of relationship building that happens with the characters in it, I do feel like is something you might want to see. Otherwise, you'd be like, it would be weird if the characters are not referenced in anything that comes after this, because there's kind of some intense relationship building, not only with particular characters, just with the kind of bigger picture Quen that are there, the group of people that are there. So yeah, it's neat. But it's very much like additive.
Here's more of that game that you like.
Yeah. If you played through all of Horizon Forbidden West, which is a lot of game that goes on for a while, I don't know if you're going to want to roll right into Burning Shores, because it's not different enough to add another 10 to 15 hours onto that experience you might have just had. So, but it's worth coming back to if you have taken a break. Again, I was a little struggling a bit coming back into it, but they solved some of those problems pretty quickly, and I found my Horizon feat, my Aloy feat, pretty quickly, and things just moved along. And I did most of the side stuff in it, so I think if you even just streamline it, you could probably even move a little faster through it.
Also, plenty of time to play it before Horizon 3 comes out.
Plenty of time. Is that even announced?
No. But okay. No, but I mean, like, it sounds like the way that all this ends, like it would be a massive insult to the fan base if they didn't make another one, right?
Oh, I mean, that's why I asked if it's even announced. Like, it's all but, right?
Right. Yeah, like it sounds like it would be like pitchforks if they didn't actually finish the story.
They just have to wait for the next gigantic AAA open world game to get announced so that they can put the release date for 3 weeks before it.
Yes, as is tradition. But yeah, I mean, looking at the amount of time between 1 and 2 and just how long games take to make these days, like a Horizon 3 feels like it's probably end of the PS5's lifespan game at this point.
I was going to say my biggest question is, does it make it on the PS5? But I would assume that they take what they have in Burning Shores at the PS5, because again, we should mention you can't get this on PS4. So they take what they have there and try to get Horizon 3 done and on that engine without having to because all that work is done to get it a full game out on that engine on the PS5 now before they have to redo it for whatever comes next.
Yes.
Can't wait
to talk about how the PS5 version of Horizon 3 is holding back the PS6 version.
That's right. That's right. Your PS5, PS6 version. It's only a $10 upgrade. So yeah, I think it is worth playing if you've played it, but I don't think you have to jump right in. I think you can take your time and savor, take a little break. Because I remember when I finished Horizon, I was like, that is a lot of game. I really enjoyed this, but that was a big ask of my time. I think I have something around 90 hours or something in Horizon.
Damn.
With this DLC because it kind of rolls it all up into one thing.
Jeez, man. Okay.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with me then because I was at like 50 something hours in Forbidden West when I put it down, and I wasn't anywhere near the end.
It goes a little bit longer, but also like I said, I wound up just getting everything and spent a little time in the arena and doing every single. At some point, I just stopped trying to do every pouch upgrade because it was just my biggest beef with that whole game is its upgrade stuff is out of control.
Sometimes less is more, it seems.
Yeah.
There's like a little bit of a backlash to like color-coded loot and stats on everything and like modifiers on everything kind of stuff forming out there I'm seeing.
Horizon has a lot of that. It's more of every single crafting material you have to get to kind of upgrade a thing, and then some of the limited resources actually get pretty hard to get. But how many squirrel pinkies do I need to go hunt down to go upgrade my 1 of 17 satchels? That's the kind of stuff of like, oh, you have to get 18 18 bird toes to go get this, and it's like I could spend 3 hours going to get that to get plus 5 more in my bomb sack. It's Talk
about your bomb sack.
Yeah. Anyway, that's Horizon Forbidden West, Burning Shores, your spoiler-free version. Take it. I don't even know if I'm gonna put spoiler tags on that in the markers. That was pretty spoiler-free. Anything else you guys want to chat about? Let's take it to the news. We're going to kick off the news that just kind of broke not too long ago here. Some news coming out about, you guessed it, Microsoft and Activision.
Oh, boy.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it right after this. All right, we are back. And you thought it was going to be, a month? 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I'm not sure the last time we talked about Microsoft and Activision. It
actually has been a little bit.
Has it been a little bit?
A little bit.
But here we are with some actual, I think we skipped a couple of smaller stories that have come out. But Brad Shoemaker, this is a bigger one.
Passing on quite a few until now. Yeah, the Activision acquisition by Microsoft has been blocked in the UK by the Competition and Markets Authority, which is the regulatory body that would block things like this.
Oh, the CMA.
Mm-hmm. The CMA.
So yeah, this is going to mean that Microsoft, I mean, it's basically their first big red, not allowed stamp they have. They have a couple of more boards they have to go through. There's the EU. There's obviously in the States here, they have to get it approved. But the CMA, like you said, kind of stated their cloud gaming aspects of this over all of the Call of Duty stuff we have been hearing. The hay that has been made over Call of Duty and that stuff, they kind of focused more on their competitive edge. And from what I can understand, the future-looking market consolidation of cloud gaming and how that would affect this, including Game Pass and all of that stuff rolled up.
Yeah. It sounds like whatever concerns they may have had about competition in the console space and the hardware space have been resolved, that it's much more about Game Pass and the cloud presence. Also, just to add what you were saying about this being kind of a red stamp, I guess this is the first final verdict from a regulator.
Yeah.
Where, they said, okay, we have concluded our investigation. Nuh-uh. So as opposed to the others that are still ongoing, although even then
it's appeals and they will.
There's still a lot to go through.
They're going to appeal it. Like everybody from Bobby Kotick to 8 different Microsoft executives are out there going this isn't the final word. This isn't over.
Definitely not. And what does happen though is they were looking to get this kind of wrapped up. We've mentioned this before by the summer, by July 18th. That date's not going to happen. So they're from what I understand, if they don't get that done by July 18th, if it fell through, Microsoft would owe a lot of money to Activision for basically breaking the deal or for it falling through. Basically, I'm not a contractual lawyer, but they would owe some monies. They're gonna push that date ahead.
Yes.
They're just not going to get it done by this point because now they have to go back in an appeal to either, from what I understand, we're not lawyers. This is just basically from reading it. Try and carve out exceptions or to kind of make their appeal based on grounds that would be more appealing to this regulatory body. This happened not that long ago, but some of the chatter that has started to bubble up and some of the analyzing, let's say, from people who are in better positions than we to analyze it, have floated things that sound, to my layman's ear, like not so great for the consumer on that end, which is, hey, maybe we can make an exception in these territories for not including Activision stuff in some of the online, like Game Pass marketplaces or...
Yeah, that was, just analysts analyzing left and right. Yeah, that was Michael Pachter's suggestion. I guess he gave that to Axios, I believe, that maybe they just make the concession of not putting Activision games on Game Pass in the UK, and maybe that's enough to get it over the line for that body.
Yeah.
Not unheard of.
I'm not generally a big fan of listening to the Pac-Man, but he has apparently been out there talking about this particular contingency and this thing being a hang-up for a while now. Credit where credit's due there.
Yes, Stephen Stillo did credit him that he's been saying this for months and not just in reaction to this news this morning. Also, this broke right before we started, so not a lot of time to absorb it. But
obviously, this is a gigantic, not only merger, but Microsoft, a gigantic business. And so in Kotick's statement, Kotick on the Activision side, obviously, I think he even says this could affect Microsoft's investing in AI in these territories, especially the UK as well. Which is geez, man, all right, it's just what we're doing here.
Some of the language out there basically amounted to I guess the UK doesn't want to be a friendly place for tech businesses to grow their companies.
But that's always the line, right? Anytime a company like this runs into any kind of roadblock like this, there's always a sort of tut-tut notion of you are actually impeding progress by not letting us do this.
Yeah, I will mention real quick here just to kind of underscore the gravity of this. The CMA is the same agency that killed the NVIDIA acquisition of ARM a couple of years ago, which I don't know for a fact, I'm just guessing, I think was probably the biggest tech merger to ever be shut down prior to the Activision situation. That was a $40 billion deal. And in fact, in that case, NVIDIA dropped it voluntarily because it seemed like the CMA was going to rule against them. And so they essentially terminated the deal themselves. So there is precedent, certainly, for this exact situation to result in this kind of thing being sunk. At the same time, it's Microsoft.
Yeah.
They'll probably find a way.
Microsoft did, I don't know if notorious is the right word, I'll just use it, have that Internet Explorer stuff happen to them where they got basically told they couldn't, what was it? They couldn't have it by default be your...
Yeah, you couldn't. Well, I forget how
what the language
much
was.
They had to decouple Internet Explorer from Windows, but they were, it was very much an anti-competitive, you're crowding out the browser market by just including this browser with everyone's computer and making it the default on everything.
And that was also in the UK, wasn't it? I don't know if it was the same body, but I don't think it was stateside. I thought it was.
I don't know. It's weird. That's been, gosh, I guess it hasn't been that long. When was that?
30 years? Yeah. Mid-2000s? I thought it was earlier than that.
Maybe, when was... Anyway, the thing you read was that put the fear of God into Bill Gates in a way that you can't imagine in terms of being concerned about and paranoid about future antitrust situations. I don't know if, institutional memory is a thing. He's obviously been out of there for some time, but I don't know how much that still influences the decisions of the current leadership.
It's a weird thing too, because when we talk about these things, we're talking about this gigantic body, Microsoft. We're talking about Activision, which has not seemed like a healthy place a development studio over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, as stories.
It's been some time.
Yeah, like pretty egregious stuff that has come out of there, and with even Bobby Kotick and all that leadership and everything that's happened in the Blizzard side of things. And so it's hard to know where you want things to even fall, right? Like, do you want, as a consumer, right? Or as somebody who wants a healthy industry, which is where I land, which is I want a healthy competitive industry.
Right.
Activision needs help. I don't want everybody on Activision to lose their jobs, right? I want them to be able to develop games, but I also want there to be institutional change there. And, I don't even know. So like I don't want massive consolidation within our industry because I don't want something that is now like, oh, well, if Microsoft goes left, it pulls 7 tons of developer cargo behind it left as well, right? That's what happens when these things happen. Like Microsoft makes a decision internally now, and they have 152 studios that also have to align to that vision. So I don't know. I mean, Microsoft just had layoffs as well. It trickled down through a bunch of different studios. This merger is a weird one.
It is.
Yeah.
There's not really much else to say other than this whole thing is weird and it is still ongoing. And, in the end, I think my leaning is still toward this will probably still happen. It's just going to take longer than people, probably would, at least on their side, would like it to. I just wanted to very briefly mention, I did think it was very funny that they mentioned the failure of Stadia as a contributing factor in their cloud gaming ruling here. So here is yet another thing you can blame Phil Harrison for. In terms of like consolidation in that game like
share.
it just if anything they have an even more of a stranglehold now that there is no longer Google competing in that space.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I really don't know where these things go. I certainly wasn't expecting this. I thought it would like 800-pound gorilla its way through these bodies. But
look, every once in a while, the 800-pound gorilla runs into a wall. It just has to bang on that wall for a while until it can knock it down.
Yeah. It's been kind of eye-opening after the experience of the last decade in this kind of like second golden age of Silicon Valley and tech giants and et cetera, and the lack of antitrust action taken there at times that it seemed like it was necessary. Antitrust or other regulations on social media and so forth. Like it just seemed like it was a thing of the past,
Yeah.
And then like the NVIDIA ARM thing fell apart. There's I forget this isn't really tech, but which publisher was it that had their merger blocked last year? It was like Penguin and Simon & Schuster, I forget.
I think so. Yeah. Schuster was definitely involved.
And like now this running into all these hurdles, it's like, oh wow, like I don't know what happened that the world's antitrust bodies like woke up after a decade or something.
Well, I mean, those mergers kept getting bigger is the thing.
Yeah,
like, the scope of them kept getting bigger and bigger, and they kept happening in greater frequency.
Arguably, this is the inevitable outcome of concentrating all the capital in fewer and fewer hands.
Yeah.
Well, eventually you're going to get to the point where everybody's like, okay, come on now.
I mean, I don't want to get too in the weeds here because this is not my area. I only live through this and suffer the consequences of it. I don't study it, but as you get that consolidation, those places that are consolidating that wealth are not invulnerable, and they topple, and they are affected by market forces in a way that then becomes, well, if this thing fails, it will drag so much of an industry and an economy down with it. I don't want to use it, but it is the word to use, that it becomes too big to fail, right? And then you do have to have bailout and government stuff come in because there's nothing. You're now talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs tied to this, secondary industries tied to this one thing. So it does, oddly enough, become a government problem. Like these free markets become a government problem when it's like, hey, Microsoft invested in something ridiculous. I'm just saying, for example, and now you're talking about sinking hundreds of thousands of jobs where they used to be, diversified enough where maybe some would float up or maybe a competitor would rise up. And now, you kind of don't get that. So maybe they are reacting to some of that. We've had a lot of banks and airlines and all of this stuff happen over the last 20 years where that consolidation has really caused it to become so top heavy that you can't have flexibility there. Like everything's the margins are so weird.
Kind of reminds me of the AT&T breakup.
Yes.
Decades ago.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever look at one of those flowcharts for how that works, it's so goddamn depressing because they broke AT&T up into like 8 companies, and they have all re-merged back into, they're down to 3 now.
Big old Ma Bell, Pac Bell.
AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen are basically all that's left because all those constituent companies have all reacquired each other.
Yeah, I mean, the sci-fi world of the megacorp is not made out of, like, you know, cut from nothing. It is cut from the fear that this consolidation leads to basically from your toothbrush to your kid's school is owned by the gigantic megacorp.
Arguably, some of these corporations already match the scale of what we were talking about in that sort of dystopian vision, and it's just getting bigger.
Yep. Yeah. Those little bubble charts where you see, like, hey, this circle's going to eat this circle. It's just basically one circle now. And it's called Vinco. Don't stop me, CMA. I'm taking over everything. That's Microsoft Activision stuff. Clearly, this is not over. We will talk more about that in the future.
Yeah, I was trying to find where I read this, and I can't find the sourcing on it. I think it was also from Pactor that he suggested this appeals process could take like 3 years.
Oh, jeez.
Up to?
That honestly doesn't surprise me.
They're not going to stand for that. There's no way.
Yeah, no. I mean, I highly doubt it'll actually come to that, but it sounds like the potential is there.
Jeez. Job creators.
Uh-huh. Specifically jobs for people to, just stare at this deal for a while and
I was gonna say for
make
lawyers.
it to last as long as humanly possible.
That's right. Speaking of things that go away but are coming back around again, Samba de Amigo. Are you guys fans? I never really played the original.
I played a little. Okay. I thought it was cute, like the original one. I don't think I've played any of the ensuing ones.
By me saying that, I'm not saying it's bad. I just mean I just never got into it.
Why do you hate Samba de Amigo?
I've got a list. Do you want me to start from number 1, or should I just go down to like the end?
I don't know. Just top line. Give me what's your big beef?
Maracas. They're just the lame instrument. They're just like, who wants to play them? No,
okay.
I'm kidding. Number 1 is I didn't have a PlayStation. I wasn't a PlayStation kid.
Okay,
Lear.
That Lear. Oh, sorry, PlayStation. Lear. I meant Dreamcast. Dreamcast.
Oh, this is embarrassing. I can't remember the name of the mascot of Samba de Amigo. What is that thing's name?
Samba.
The leer on his face is just.
It's not is it?
No, that's the monkey, isn't it?
That's a monkey ball monkey.
Yeah, it's monkey ball.
Okay.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know if that character has a name, but just that grin.
Mm-hmm.
Amigo is the monkey, right?
Maybe it is Amigo.
Maybe it is. Again, this is not my rhythm franchise. So
it is. I believe it is Amigo.
It's Amigo Samba. I didn't really play this.
Mario.
I wasn't a Sega kid, nor was I a Sony kid. Either of those. But anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is they have announced the song list for this new Samba de Amigo. Are they just calling it Samba de Amigo? No, Party Central. Samba de Amigo, yes. Party Central. Terrible name. But let's take a look at the song list here, and I'm going to have to use you guys to tell me, are these songs good or not, or have you heard of them? Because I will just say I've heard of the artist. I don't know the song.
Okay, give me what you got.
Okay. Do you know Ariana Grande's Break Free?
I'm aware of this song, yes.
Okay. Do you know Carly Rae's I Really Like You?
Yes, I do. Pretty good song.
Okay. Cheat Code's Payback?
No.
Diplo and TSHA?
Okay, I know who Diplo is.
Okay. Let You Go?
Nah, don't got it. I mean, that might be one of those ones where it's one of those songs that plays in, like, coming out of the cars that drive down my street all the time, and if I heard it, I would know it, but I don't know it.
Do you know Gloria Gaynor?
Yeah.
Have you heard of a song called I Will Survive?
Yes.
Now you're moving into the old people block.
Iconopop?
Uh-huh.
I Love It?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I love it. One of the premier party anthems of the 90s.
I know this song.
Jay Giles Band, Centerfold.
Well, yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, hang on. Maybe that was not the 90s.
It might have been the aughts.
Oh my god, it was 2012. Wow. I thought that song was way older than that.
I thought it was like maybe mid-aughts, but I guess not.
I have no idea. Yeah, why I thought it was that old anyway. It's a great song.
Is that the song that goes, I Love It?
I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yep. Centerfold, Bang Bang, attributed to Jessie J, Ariana Grande, and Nicki Minaj.
I know this song.
Okay. Jonas Brothers, Sucker.
Yes, I know this song.
Kesha. TikTok.
Yes, that is the original Kesha single.
Okay.
Wow. I had forgotten that she spelled TikTok the way that TikTok is spelled.
Is it not related to TikTok?
No, it was pre-TikTok.
Way predates TikTok, but spelled the same way.
Mateo? Panama? Nothing there. Blank stares.
I know who Mateo is. I don't know the song off the top of my head.
Panama!
Not that one.
Okay.
Nope.
Miley Cyrus, Plastic Hearts. Pitbull, Celebrate.
Mr. Worldwide.
Ricky Martin's The Cup of Life.
Okay, not my favorite Ricky Martin song, but sure.
Rina Sawayama.
Sawayama, yeah, I know her.
XS.
Okay, I don't know her like any of her songs, but I know who she is.
Sam and the Womp, Bomb Bomb.
Nope.
Boom Boom.
Nope.
Okay. Steve Aoki, Daddy Yankee, and Playing Skills, and Elvis Crespo.
I know 3 of the 4 people on that track.
Azukita?
No idea.
Okay. Those are the songs that are listed.
Okay.
Wait,
yeah, it's pretty pop heavy.
Are you going to leave out these covers of La Bamba and the Macarena?
No, I was, sure. Does it say who the La Bamba cover is?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to guess it's probably not the Los Lobos version.
I don't know.
They would say if it was.
Yes, you absolutely would scream.
If you got Los Lobos, you fucking get out there and you tell people you got Los Lobos.
Yeah, it could be fun. Have fun streaming that game.
Yeah, okay, so are they releasing new Maraca peripherals for this, or are you just using the Switch things?
Well, you can just use the Switch Joy-Cons, but I don't know if they are using the maracas, but you can just use the Joy-Con.
Okay.
I don't know if they are like making a package with maracas.
I haven't seen any mention of actual controllers.
We're pretty fucking far away from the world where anyone wants to make plastic instruments of any kind.
I think the plastic music controller era is over, or at least extremely dormant for now.
Maybe I'll get this game and I'll learn all about modern music. Or music. Modern-ish music? Music from past the 2000s.
I'd say a lot of that is at least the last decade.
Okay. I will survive.
Not the last decade, but I mean, look, that's a Stone Cold classic. We all know that.
Let's see if that story actually has a release date in it.
I think that game's soon.
I want to say it's soon, too. It was announced back in February.
June, I believe.
June.
February's like June.
That is also soon. That's like 2 months away.
Yeah.
You guys remember the Case of the Golden Idol?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Either of you guys finish it? That game's
no, I should really get back to that.
I liked what I played of it.
The game's great.
I don't know if actually it might be more known now, but as of tomorrow, I think, as of the time of this recording, there's possibly DLC, though it is a little cryptic as to what that will be.
It is a mystery game.
It is a mystery game, but some cryptic emails or semi-cryptic emails were sent out, hinting at DLC to come out on April 27th. So
okay.
I'm pretty excited. That game is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And I remember talking about when we were playing it, like it's tailor-made for further expansion, right? Because it's kind of so episodic to begin with. You could very much just bolt another, like, here's 6 new chapters of a side story.
Totally. I would, if they want to put like 6 new chapters in and pay full price. I don't remember that game's price, but maybe it was $20.
It wasn't that expensive.
No, I'll pay for it again. I would love to have it. I hope there's new music too, because the music in it was awesome.
I'm going to re-download that so I can finish it. Really put the power of this 4090 to work.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. The simulation begins. Here's a message that it said in the one of those emails. Dear associate, the Seven Seas Company has reviewed and approved your request to partake in the upcoming Lanka trading expedition. You and 2 other associates will personally accompany yours truly on this mission. This is from Albert Cloudsley. A partial travel itinerary has been included. Albert Cloudsley. I want to play more of this. That's it.
Okay.
I wanted to let people know.
You want more?
A public service announcement.
Yes. I want more. That game is good. And people should play The Case of the Golden Idol. Did it come to consoles?
I don't believe so.
Should. Put that thing everywhere. It's a good game. That's going to do it for the news, at least as of the time of this recording. Who knows what happened when we, by the time this goes up. The things are moving and shaking. E3's back on. Who knows?
No. Don't say things you can't take back.
Stop it. That's going to do it for the news, but we do have an email address. That email address is podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. Brad Shoemaker, what are the folks saying out there?
Mohammed in California wrote in with a question. In light of the Watchcast episode about Street Fighter, the major motion picture.
Yes. Major.
Do you guys have a favorite villain who's known for coming back from the dead in the most inconceivable ways possible? Blown to bits one movie and miraculously brought to life in the next. The first that comes to mind for me is M. Bison, who has somehow managed to die in 3 of the Street Fighter entries, yet always manages to have a spare body for his soul to chill in. I mean, he does have psycho power.
Is this, this could be through video games or movies, or is this mostly? Okay,
sure.
Let me think for a second here.
Well, I'm immediately discounting the whole fucking somehow the Emperor returned bullshit from that last Star Wars.
I think that's like the bad version of this.
The very bad version of that.
That's the we couldn't think of anything else.
Yeah.
And oh god, we don't have no idea what to do here.
Okay, but that's a pretty good one.
I mean, it's not necessarily the villain, but I will say the degree and the lengths that the Fast and Furious franchise has gone to bring people back from the dead is one of the most fantastic things about that series. The way they will literally turn their own lore into pretzels just so they can bring back an actor you like.
Didn't they do that with the Tokyo Drift guy?
Yes.
Okay.
And the explanation for it is so fucking stupid, even by the standards of that series.
Great. Perfect. I hope that they did not. I hope that they did something a little more respectful for Paul Walker's character.
So they just haven't killed him.
Oh.
What?
He apparently... Well, so that's the thing, is that he sped off into the distance in 7, and then they keep referencing him like he's alive, but they keep coming up with reasons for him not to show up in the movie.
That's weird.
Which I'm going to say is maybe the more respectful version than continuing to get his brother to show up and then putting a CG face over him, which is what they did at the end of 7, which was fine for the goodbye, but I don't want to see as a regular feature of the films. But since we are nearing the end of that series, I do wonder if they're going to try and do something with that.
Metal Gear has always been pretty ridiculous about trying to figure out ways to either bring people back or think that they have brought people back. So that has been that is a weird one. Let's see. What are movies or games that they didn't think they would make a sequel to, and then they made a sequel to and realized they had to, oh boy, we need to bring that villain back. Because I feel like nowadays in cinema, everybody's planning for the sequel already. So
everything's a cinematic universe now.
Yeah, right. So I have to think kind of earlier on. Somebody's probably had their DNA stored and frozen, and then thawed out and reconstituted and put back and done. But I can't think of it off the top of my head. Duke from the G.I. Joe movie, the worst one.
He's okay. Duke's gonna be all right.
What? Okay, credits.
Yeah. Yay, we won. By the way, Duke's gonna be all right. Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty fucking dumb. I agree.
That's okay. Or by that same vein, Optimus Prime comes back in like the Transformers series.
You can't kill Optimus Prime.
Apparently, you can't. You're right. So there you go. I found one.
Okay.
Listen, you don't kill the thing that made you all the money, and then you think you're going to sell the toys, and then you're like, nobody wants these toys, but
nobody
they want
wants
the damn
Rodimus
truck.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
They straight up called that special The Return of Optimus Prime.
It's They knew what they were doing, but it didn't last too long.
They knew where their butter was bread, or bread was buttered. That's okay. That was fun. Hey, that was good.
Brad, you got any more butter in the podcast?
I'll do a couple more
or some bread, whatever.
Mike from New York City wrote in about the baseball discussion.
Okay.
I've personally not used a chest protector for baseball, but I'd imagine it's to protect against, my Latin has been commotio cordis.
Oh, yep.
If they're using the Latin term, that must mean it's real bad.
It's rare, but a blunt hit to the chest during a specific 40 millisecond window of the heart's rhythm can cause ventricular fibrillation and cardiac arrest. It's far more common in baseball than other sports, but this is what happened to the Buffalo Bills' Damar Hamlin in January 2023 when he collapsed on the field after making a tackle. So
I had a lot of people message me as well about that stuff.
So apparently those chest protectors are well justified.
I think they're well intentioned. I also saw a lot of studies that say the data is still forthcoming on their efficacy. So
it's also notable that these are not really used in the professional leagues. Just general chest protectors in baseball. I don't think so.
I thought catchers wear something, don't they?
Well, no, catchers do. Yeah. That's a different situation. The catchers have a whole set of pads just for them.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Obviously not in the outfield or whatever.
Yeah, so these are more very thin to wear when you're batting or playing other positions too. Also, face guards for the pitcher. I see a lot now too, having been to a couple of games. Thanks for people who sent me that information as well. Chest guards.
What's next?
One more?
Yeah.
Dan from Philly.
Hi, Dan.
I think that's Philadelphia.
You say so.
This is amazing. After hearing the nightmarish email about losing a hard-fought, mudslinging local election, I thought I'd offer up my completely different but equally as weird experience.
Okay.
In 2017, a year after that general election, I decided to do my civic duty and vote in my precinct's smaller off-year election. These are usually judges and small local positions, usually people running unopposed, and no real party affiliations for the candidates involved. For my little suburbs election, 2 positions had no candidates listed at all, only write-ins. Growing up, my brothers would constantly write me in for a PTA position at my hometown school district, so I got into the habit of just writing myself in as a default. This election was no exception, so I absent-mindedly keyed in my name for the write-ins and went about my day. You can probably guess where this is going.
I can.
Cut to 3 months later when my now wife comes up from our building's mailroom with 2 huge flat envelopes from the county. Not only had I won the position of judge of elections for my precinct, I had also won majority inspector.
Mother of God.
It turns out I was literally the only person who voted for those positions, and I won both unanimously with my one measly write-in vote.
Wow.
I had to choose between the two to officially accept, so naturally I went with judge of elections. When you're the Joe, you basically run the whole voting station from 5 a.m. to whenever the polls close, I think at 9. I was the only person working the station that was under the age of 75. And even though I was in my late 20s, we all had a blast with both the primary and the midterm elections in 2018. Sadly, even though my term was 4 years, I had to resign when I moved into my house on the other side of town, which ended up being in an entirely different county. That's the Philly suburbs for you. I had to fax in my resignation to the local party office and name a successor. Some facets of bureaucracy never change.
Amazing.
Anyway, local politics isn't always just smear ads and character assassination. Sometimes you perpetuate a long-running in-joke and end up giving a shit when nobody else in the voting booth does.
I
appreciate their attitude toward it.
It's pretty good.
I'm glad it ended happily and not in being the judge of elections made my life a misery.
They unlike a lot of office holders, they at least respected the tenets and requirements of their position and fulfilled their duties.
Incredible.
I am amazed that no one else, like if somebody else had wrote one name in there, would have been a runoff.
Gonna have to go to a runoff, whole new election.
Then the campaign season starts.
I think the sadder thing to me is if he hadn't done his little in-joke.
Yeah.
What happens when nobody votes for anybody? Like, how do they?
Be no one.
Maybe they appoint somebody if nobody is elected.
I don't know. Thank you for doing your civic duty.
Yeah, for real.
I'll mention this. I know this last email, but I just want to say I popped into the. If folks remember, long listeners will remember the person who acquired a high school with some other people. If you pop into that thread, I check in there every once in a while over on our Discord. The thread there, it's freaking awesome. Like,
so they're making good on it.
Oh my gosh, the skate ramp looks amazing. Like, just the rooms look so cool. It is so awesome to check in and see the progress on this high school or elementary school, this whatever it is.
I think it was a high school.
Converted into a living space. It blows my mind every time I see pictures of what is going on in there, and like, hey, this is this wing, and this is this thing. It's just wild,
unbelievable.
Wild. Yeah,
I got to pull that back up. I haven't been in that thread in a while.
Yeah,
it's so cool. There are updated pictures, and thanks for updating it. If you're listening,
please keep us informed. This is like one of the best ongoing things we have in our community.
So cool.
What are you gonna do with all that space?
I don't know. And every time I see it, I'm like, that's awesome. You put a skate park in there, apparently. It's great.
I mean, I won't, but that's great that they are.
Yes. It's very cool. Those are the emails. Again, that's podcast@nextlander.com. Podcast@nextlander.com. And that's going to wrap up this week's show. I gotta take a nap or something. I was up too late playing video games.
That's harsh. I don't know how. I stayed up till 12:30 a couple nights ago, and it kind of broke me.
These video games are tough.
Man, you guys, like, I still go. I mean, look, I don't stay up all night and play video games anymore, but like, I'm still going to bed at like 1 o'clock. Like, I can't. I can't go to bed that early.
When you can't sleep past about 7, that's not an option anymore.
I was going to say
that's the other side of it.
I crawled into bed like around 5:30, and then was everything wakes up around 6 and 6:30. So it was like, this can't be happening. What did I do? So I stayed in bed the latest I possibly could, just yelling out like, "Go brush! I'll be in the shower. You brush first." Miserable
mornings.
Miserable. And we're gonna record Never Been a Better podcast tonight, and I think. All things, if they line up, we should have a full house. It doesn't happen that often. Everybody seems to have a clear calendar. I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to try and pack everybody in for a recording. We haven't recorded yet, so that might change. But
no promises, but
super excited. You can check that out over on patreon.com/Nextlander. We got the Watchcast going on over there. We just recorded our first episode for, Some Guys Are Coming to Get Us?
Some Guys Are Coming to Kill Us.
It's come or kill us. Very specific.
Yes.
And we watched Assault on Precinct 13. That'll be up next week over on the Patreon side of things.
What a picture.
You can catch up on the video game month that is now up as well. Check that out. We got the Ramblecast. No video Ramblecast this week. I apologize. That was my fault. Had a snafu with the recording of the video. So just the audio version, but just imagine I'm doing amazing things with my hands the entire time.
Just
we're talking.
Constant gesturing.
I won't stop. It just won't stop. So you can check out the audio version of that over on the Patreon as well, along with a bunch of other stuff. Did I mention we have a Patreon? Because we do.
No.
And over there on this Patreon, you can sign up for a bunch of different tiers, including the mysterious Benefactor tier, which has the amazing ability and benefit of making Alex Navarro read their names live on this show. Alex, would you do the honors of reading our mysterious benefactors for this week?
I'll do it.
Oh, you're fantastic.
Our mysterious benefactors for this week are RRE, John Richardson, Vornak, Kelly F., James Smith, Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Sean Miller, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, JM, Jerry Lee, Gary Pejsky, Robert Fisher, John McInnes, #Bunny Crimes, Peter Reardon, Thomas Lynn, Jad Rita, Statics, Andrew Jackson, Razgriz2, Brian Murphy, Trevor and Adrian R., Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebken, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Matt Clements Jr., Edward Chick, Andrew Slosky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese.
Thank you. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. And thanks again to everyone who has gone over to patreon.com/Nextlander and signed up for any of the tiers there. We appreciate it. Can't do it without you. I don't just say that. I mean it. I'm not just the founder. I'm also a member.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The hair club for Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up this week as well. We got Thursday. We're going to be doing a grab bag. And then over on Friday is Patron's Choice. Patron's Choice. That means you can go find a poll going up soon. If not, by the time this podcast goes up, maybe. We'll see. But going up soon there, and you can go vote to see what we get up to on Friday. We got a bunch of stuff coming out at the end of this week, too. So we'll see how we shuffle things around there. And maybe some of those choices will make it into the Patron's Choice. We will see. Got that Jedi game coming out on Friday.
Yeah, that's soon.
There's also that Benedict Fox game, I think comes out on Thursday or Friday. It's end of this week. You remember that one? You're making a squinty face. I think it's called Benedict Fox. Is that right? The something adventures.
Right. Man, no offense to that game. I don't know how I keep forgetting about that game.
Yeah, it looked neat.
Neat.
The last case of Benedict Fox.
Metroidvania. So yeah, maybe we'll check those out in some capacity, and you can check all of that out over on our Twitch or YouTube channel. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Brad. We will be back with another Nextlander podcast next week.